a large family with 9 siblings. She earned her bachelor's degree in chemical engineering and began her career working in a departmental office before becoming a petroleum engineer for Kuwait Oil Company. She didn't want to be office-bound and moved to the firefighting operations. During the 1990 invasion of Kuwait by Iraq, most of the oil wells in the country were attacked by Saddam's army. She was the lone woman on a team of petroleum engineers who acted against orders to take on the dangerous task of dousing oil well fires. She believes in her familiarity with the well that allowed her team to be successful. She told me, "I worked on the oil fields offshore and onshore day and night, and the result of this work was that I knew all those 800 wells like the back of my hand." She now is recognized as a national hero, and I admire her skills, application of her knowledge, and of course her bravery and courage. She's no one but Sarah Akbar, who's the women's rights advocate and co-founder and former chief executive officer of Kuwait Energy. Can we put our hand up and say that we add value to our organization like Sarah? For each service provided, there is a cost. To show our value, we need to consider the services we provide and their standard quality, as well as the cost to the organization. I'm going to pose some questions, and you can agree or disagree. You can imagine a green dot if you agree with me, or a red dot if you disagree. This is the exercise we did last year in Kuwait, and everyone was engaged. Ready? Let's start. The first problem. This is actually the big, ugly, overarching problem that leads to many other sub-problems. Your CFO and CEO want to see the monetary value of initiatives. And if you can't show it, they believe that you're not bringing any value. When you're seen as a cost, you're seen as part of a problem, not part of the solution. And you're at the risk of not just having your budget cut, but also of being left out of crucial organizational decisions. Agree or disagree? It's the second problem. When you can't prove your value, you're perceived as a cost. What happens to costs during times of economic anxiety, low oil prices, and a pandemic? They get slashed. 3 things that get cut down in a downturn are training, recruitment, followed by advertisement. Agree or disagree? Third problem. If you're having a capital investment, your CFO and finance department are fully aware of the amount they're investment, and they've worked out the payback period. But this is only 15% of your organization investments. The other 85% are spent on your non-capital investments, like learning and development, innovation, etc. Skills like communication, collaboration, leadership, and the ability to fully engage and empathize with others are the key to success and profitability in our global high-tech economy. However, training for them requires a major investment. And if your CEO, his or her perception is negative, they won't allow you to spend that money. They'll be very reluctant to give you those funds. Agree or disagree? Fourth problem. So according to one study, 96% of Fortune 500 CEOs want to see the business connection, the business impact. Yet only 8% get that type of data. 74% of the C-level want to see ROI, return on investment, on what they've given you to invest for them. Yet only 4% are receiving and provided with this type of data. Very, very few learning and development professionals, HR professionals have data to show top executives that their programs make a difference in their organization. Agree or disagree? Fifth problem. People are not using learning, or they're learning what they don't need to know, and we pay for it. Statistics show that nearly 50% of learning and development is wasted. People may be learning what you're teaching, but it doesn't necessarily apply to their day-to-day work. Or even if it does apply, for some reason they don't use it. The wasted funds are bad, but the wasted potential is even worse. So one of our partners, ROI Institute, they did a study with the American Talent Development, ATD, and they found that on average, employees spend more than $1,000 per person per year on their learning and development. This is about 34 hours that an employee spends out of office or not doing what they were paid to do on training. 34 hours per person per year. The benchmark showed 45% of that money is wasted. i.e., on each person, you're nearly wasting $600 per person per year. That's equivalent to about 15 hours per person per year that is wasted. When you multiply that by the number of people who you have trained or you've sent on a training program, you see the astronomical amount of money that is wasted on L&D, on learning. Do you agree or disagree? I'm going to stop here. What should we do to show the value of human capital investments, especially in the oil industry? Come along to this island with me. Drive with me. We've got 7 steps that I would like you to come and explore with me and find out that +1 is, there is a secret for you. Let's go. So the first thing that you do, the first step, you need to ask yourself why you want to do something. Ask yourself why. This is based on the Golden Circle, which is an innovative and concept presented by Simon Sinek. He says, start with why, then get to the how and what. It challenges the status quo at its core for identifying your purpose for what you do in the business and in your own life. He's written a book and he presented at a TED Talk. I highly recommend you listen to that. So, start with why. You ask yourself, is there a problem worth solving? Or is there an opportunity worth pursuing? If the answer to either of these questions is yes, then you know that you have to do something. You can also ask yourself, what if I don't do anything? What would be the risk of inaction? Is there the possibility, the probability of having a positive return on investment? Can we make more money? Can we save money? Can we avoid costs? These are the questions that you need to be asking yourself and your team members, or somebody will ask you those questions. So you identified that there is a problem or an opportunity. Second step, you have to go and find the right solution. Training is not necessarily the right solution for everything. It's not that magic wand, abracadabra, and we get things fixed. Identify the right solution. So after the business needs are defined, the next step is to clarify the performance needs. What are performance needs? These are behaviors, actions, or activities that need to change on the job in order to improve the business measures. The need at this level can vary considerably. They may include ineffective behavior, inadequate systems, disconnected process flow. Once performance needs are identified, then you need to do a proper training need analysis to identify the learning needs. When identifying learning needs, the basic question being answered is, what do people need to know in order to change their behavior or action on the job in order to improve business measures, which are your business needs? Then you go to your preference needs. Preference needs represent the preferred way in which the knowledge, skill, and information are delivered. They should perceive it as important and relevant to them, and they should have the intention of using it. A lot to take in, huh? Let me give you an example. So as an example, your objective is to reduce turnover by a specific percentage in a certain time frame in an oil company. This is a smart goal because it's specific. You're talking about turnover, you can measure it if it goes up or down. It's measurable because you've given it a percentage and it's time bound. Then you can identify your job groups. You can interview them, do some focus group, do survey to find out what are the root cause of turnovers. So in an oil company, you can have drilling engineers, operation specialists. Obviously, you need to engage your HR managers and people who are in the training. They could tell you, well, we don't pay people enough. There is a lot of job stress. We don't communicate well. There is inadequate supervision. And people are very quick in giving you all the problems. Don't leave that meeting without asking them the solutions, because they would know. As you're identifying the causes, ask them for solutions. They usually have many recommendations as well. List all those solutions and identify how each solution addresses specific problems. Then prioritize and select the solutions that seem to have the highest impact. For example, here, you have identified that improving communication could resolve a few issues. So you can design and develop a communication skills program and monitor how their behavior changes. Okay? So you identified why there was a problem to solve. You chose the right solution. Now, to expect results and expect success, you need to write proper objectives. You need to write your objectives at all those 5 levels that I presented: reaction, learning, application, impact, and ROI. I give you an example. Look at where it says start here, the top left-hand corner. You did some analysis and you realized in the organization your turnover cost is $10,000 per month. Multiply that by 12, you will see somebody sooner or later will turn to you and say, we have a problem here. You go out, you do some benchmarking. You realize that globally, that figure is 5%, while yours is nearly double that. You need to find out what people are supposed to be doing that they're not doing. And you find out that communication between team members and supervisors are not occurring when there is an unplanned turnover and no exit interview takes place. People resign, they walk out of the door and take all that information with them because nobody cares to ask them, why are you leaving? Once you have identified this performance need, you go and run a proper training need analysis, and you realize that there is a deficiency in communication and some of your HR policies need to be updated. For your preference needs, you realize that, okay, you can do a one-day exit interview skills workshop that must provide practical and usable information to them. It should be important and relevant to them, and your people should have the intention to use them. And most importantly, you want them to like it so much that they would recommend other colleagues to come and attend your workshops. So you identify all your needs on this left-hand side. Then you go and write your objectives. For reaction objectives, you want to have impacted their perception so that they would rate your program 4 out of 5 minimum. And before they leave, you want them to write an action plan. For their learning, you write the objective, be able to demonstrate the use of probing skills. Very clear, everybody would know what it means. Application. So what happens after they attend your workshop? You've taught them well, now they have to apply it. Probing discussions conducted in 95% of situations when an unexpected turnover occurs. And then you want anybody who leaves the organization have an exit interview 100% of their times. Once application happens, impact is the consequence. You will reduce your turnover. Here you've put a particular percentage, 5%, which is the global benchmark, 6 months after they attend your workshop. And then your ROI objective, you usually put a percentage which is the lowest percentage that you want to achieve. It could be anything between 5, 15, and they're very aggressive. They wanted 25% ROI. You wrote your objectives. How do you collect the data for it? On the right-hand side. So the reactions could be collected very simply through a reaction questionnaire at the end of the workshop. Have they learned it? Have they learned what you're trying to teach them? You want them to practice and show you if they've learned it. That's during the workshop. They leave. You will follow up. You can send a follow-up questionnaire, a survey. You can have a mystery shopper. You can go and observe them yourself to see if these discussions are taking place. You can say a month after, 3 months after, 6 months, and a year. How do you measure the impact? Very easy. You go to your HR. Can you please show me our turnover percentages? Has it come down? Has it gone up? 6 months to a year. And then the ROI. You convert your benefits into a monetary value. You put all your costs in, and ROI as a very simple calculation formula that will give you the percentage. You identify the why, you chose the right solution, you wrote the objectives, now you need to have the right KPIs. Have a combination of hard data and soft data. Hard data would be the ones that you can easily convert into monetary value. There would be output, quality, cost, time. You know how much my time cost you, very easily converted into a dollar sign. On the other hand, customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, culture, they could be a little bit harder to put a monetary value on them, so you can report them as intangible. Does it actually matter? Of course it does. So you need to influence employees' perception of the program so that they would view it as important and relevant with new information provided. These are the things, the tools that you can utilize in order to measure reaction: questionnaire, observation, interviews, focus groups. You also need to ensure that they're learning what you had identified as learning gaps, and then test their retention. These are the tools you can use to see if that knowledge, skill, and attitude have taken place. Have you passed on the competencies? Are you building competencies and capabilities? Does it actually stick? So you've taught them. Is it staying with them? Is it sticking with them? That means application. Are they applying their learning? You want to check the extent of use, frequency of use, and at this stage, you want to check what are the barriers and enablers. You send me on a program, I come back, I want to do it, but there are so many barriers that I cannot do it. You as an organization is responsible to remove those barriers if you want to see business impact, which is the most important thing. 96% of the CEOs want to see business impact. Quality, output, cost, time. Very easy, different tools to allow you to measure it. When we talk with people and we do evaluations for organizations, sometimes we evaluate their impact or ROI through our partners, ROI Institute. And they said, oh, don't worry, we have so much data. When we get the data, we realize that they tell us, okay, how many people attended their programs? What's the number of social media posts? What's the number of sessions that they ran? These are all necessary, but they're just foundation to move up to get results. We call these input data, level 0. What you need to measure is reaction, perception of the people to your programs, to your initiatives, to anything new, new projects that you want to do. 90 to 100% of the time, you should be measuring the reaction and planned action. What are you going to do? The intention of use. Then, about 40 to 60% of the time, you should be measuring their learning. If you send them on a training course or if you're running something in-house, are they actually retaining that information? If not, why not? Is it the trainer? Is it the material? Is it the wrong person on the wrong course? 40 to 60% of the time. They learn it, they returned it, they passed the test 100%. Are they actually applying it? Are they implementing it? 30% of the time, you should be measuring that. Why? Because application is linked to impact. Impact is the consequence of application. 10 to 20% of the time, you should be measuring what impact you're making to their organization. That's why the CEO and CFO trust you with their money. And between 5 to 10% of the time, you can go higher and measure the ROI. A lot of organizations, they don't measure this internally, because if they want to do this, they usually come to people like ourselves who are third parties to be unbiased. Because who's going to say, I didn't do a good job? Certainly not me. Okay, as you can see, the higher you go, the more resources and skills it requires, so the percentages decrease. These are the criteria that you would consider to choose something at the level 4 or 5. If you're running an important program, you better measure your impact and ROI. If you're doing something that has got a long expectancy, anything from a month, 6 months, 3 years, you want to know where your money is going and if it's adding value. If you're spending a lot of money on it, you better know what is the ROI. Even if your sponsors and C-level have not asked you now, we see more and more CEOs waking up and say, we need to measure our impact. We need to measure our ROI. We have a lot of requests for them. What is the size of your target? The larger the audience size, the more requirement for measuring impact and ROI. How visible is it? If you're doing the Expo 2021 and the whole world is looking at it, you need to know what is your impact and your ROI, and then how interested your leaders and managers are. So you collected your data, how credible your data is. 5 steps to make sure that you provide credible data. You need to isolate the effect of your program. Was it because of you or something else caused it? You need to convert all your data, the benefits, into a monetary value. Then you tabulate all your costs. What is the cost of running that program? Then you calculate your ROI, and the data that are difficult to be converted into monetary value, you report as intangible. Intangibles are those measures that are not converted to money because they cannot be credibly converted using a minimum amount of resources. And in some programs, intangibles are more important than monetary measures. They are the invisible advantage that some learning and development programs are implemented because of those intangibles, like having greater collaboration, partnering, communication, teamwork, to reduce poverty. You report them as what we call it, intangibles. So you realize that there is a problem, you chose the right solution, wrote your objectives, collected your data, made sure that you got a positive ROI, and you keep it to yourself, you keep quiet. And then you wonder why you're not getting promoted. Don't keep this story to yourself. You need to tell the world. You need to tell your people, look, wow, what we've done. And that's your responsibility. Identify your audience and plan how to communicate with each group. The people who are sponsoring you, the people who you went to, the drilling engineer, the operation team who helped you identify the root causes, go and thank them. Give them a 1-page infographic. Say, this is what we've done with your help. You go to the CFO and say, we've got a positive ROI. It would say, how much more money do you want? So some reports are thick and take a lot of time to put together. Some would be briefer. And you can get more funding. You want to evaluate your programs to improve, not to punish. If the results are not what you anticipated, try and find out the reason behind it and then rectify them. Identify the programs that are obsolete and no longer needed. Please cut them out before adding any new ones. Once you become a true business partner, you can ask for more funding. You can go on to add more value to the success of your organization. You will become Sarah Akbar, who will know your departments like the back of your hand, and you can set your people on fire to keep the fires out. Your mission will be accomplished. Your human capital investment will pay off. That's me, Farzana Majid. I'm a business partner with ROI Institute, Balance Scorecard Institute, KPI.org. That's my email address. If this session added value to you, please drop me a line. I want to know if I parted with any new and important information to you and if you have the intention of using it. Thank you for listening.